go. And we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's another Wednesday. Hi.
It is. Hello. I didn't realise you were welcoming us back. I thought you were
I
welcoming.
was welcoming you back, and then I'm welcoming our audience back as well. But I love that pause. It makes me feel like we're on proper TV, because these days they keep on having these awkward pauses, and you're like, what happened? You remember when it used to be a sin to have a pause on TV? It was like you're very unprofessional. Now that it's the opposite and stuff. It's like it's okay to have a pause. But hey ho. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the panel. Today we've got a really interesting one. We're joined, of course, by the glorious Rochelle Gilburn.
Hello.
Hello. The property expert and LinkedIn genius. Check her out. And also we have the gorgeous Naomi Holbrook. Hello, my love.
Hello.
And Naomi helps you. Do you want to describe what you do? Because you're like unconventional, aren't you? Like the unconventional weight loss coach.
That's me. So I am the unconventional weight loss coach. And what I do is help women to heal their relationship with food, their body, and themselves so that they can not ever diet again.
Well, there you go. See, do you know what? I went to my first Weight Watchers meeting at 18. And I remember weighing in at 13 and a half stone. And I thought, God, and I remember them saying to us, oh, you're 5 stone overweight for your IBM and everything else. I'd kill to be 13 and a half stone now. Which, it brings me back all those days when I was like, oh my God, I must be overweight. Then I look at pictures of myself and I'm like, you were a normal girl. You were normal. You were gorgeous and normal and fitted into things. And I guess because I wasn't flat chested, I was deemed as bigger or fat and what have you. But we're going to talk a lot about that and stuff, because I know we've all got stories, right? We've all got stories about our weights and up and down and sideways and everything else. And we want to talk about the injections. But before I go deep into my journey, I'd love to understand, Rochelle, what's your journey been like with weight loss?
So I was really tall for my age as a child. So I grew to like 5'2" by the time I was like 10, and then only grew. I'm 5'6" now, so grew another 4 inches up until about being 12, and then just stopped growing. So I was tall and I was curvy, and I was like, I probably had like what you'd look at and think, oh my God, she's got a body to die for. But as a 9-year-old in a bikini, having a bum and having boobs and being curvy and having my little friends who were just like the most tiny, petite, skinny sticks.
Yeah.
It was interesting actually, because it was something that I was always aware of and conscious of, but not self-conscious as such. Because so like the strange thing was, my best friend, who was like the petite one, as we grew up, she was always really slim, really curvy. She was always very self-conscious. She was always like yo-yo dieting, and I was kind of just like, this is just who I am, and I accepted that this was the size that I was. And as I got into my teens, I started to appreciate my body more and love my curves. And I have done some dieting, but not. I don't think I've ever been really unhappy with my body, apart from after I had my children. So I put on about 5 stone, 4 stone with Maisie, 5 stone with Maisie, 4 stone with Joshua. So while I was pregnant, that was fine. I was just nice and cuddly and had a big, massive belly. But then once I'd had the baby, it was then, okay, now I need to get back into shape. And I love exercise. So exercising has always been my go-to thing, because I also love food. So I'd rather eat plenty and exercise plenty to stay slim. But I've never been smaller than a size 12, not since I was probably 9. So I've never been smaller than that. I've always been on the large size. Same, I've never been bigger than a 18. I've sort of always been like in that kind of kind of range. But then more recently, I started to feel pressure, and I did feel it was from looking at Instagram and social media and like seeing all these beautiful women with these slim bodies, and then seeing photos of myself, especially because I'm now standing on stage a lot, and there's like I'm great at taking selfies. I can get all my best angles, but when it comes to other people taking photos of me, I'm going, oh, I don't know if I'm happy with how I'm looking. I'm not looking like exactly how I'd like to. So then I started doing the weight loss injections for a bit, but it just turned into a bit of a yo-yo thing where I did it for a little while. I lost weight. It was brilliant. I stopped taking it. I put the weight back on, and then I did it again, and then the same thing happened, and I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. But I also really struggle at the moment to make time to exercise because I'm trying to run businesses, look after kids, and do everything else. So that's my life story.
But do you know what? It's really good to have those stories in place before we have this conversation, because sometimes, you know, people can be like, but what do you know about it? You know, you're gorgeous. What, you know, you're slim. What would you know about it? So it's true though, isn't it, Naomi? And so what's your story like?
Let's call it chaotic. My relationship with food started to become disordered as young as 8 or 9. And I didn't realize that until I healed my relationship with food and figured out that that was completely disordered eating. So I went to an all-girls school, highly competitive. I wasn't academic. I wasn't sporty. I wasn't musical. And a bit like Rochelle said there, you know, PE, those, God-forsaken green polyester, shorter than short shorts. I also had, you know, I was born with scoliosis. I had spinal surgery in my 30s. So like I always felt disconnected from my body, with pain, with chronic illness growing up, and food became a source of comfort. Then in my teens, I watched my mum diet. She was in her 40s. I was kind of, you know, around that sort of 10, 11 age. Started my first diet at 14 with a hidden tub of Slim Fast in the cupboard because I thought I was overweight, wanted, you know, comparing, you know, we didn't have social media back then in the 80s and the 90s, but we certainly had Jackie magazine and, you know, we had our peers, we had our siblings to compare ourselves to. So my relationship with my body was dreadful. I absolutely hated what I saw in the mirror. You know, when I hear Rochelle say what she said there about like having a good relationship with your body in your teens is just so beautiful. I didn't. I literally battled with this body throughout my teens, my 20s and my 30s. With chronic illness as well, not just weight, but chronic illness, chronic pain. I hated exercise, absolutely with a vengeance, hated it because it was painful and because I always felt like I was bigger and it just didn't feel comfortable. And then when I hit 39, I had literally dieted myself to death. I was absolutely done with it. And that's, you know, my 40s have been my decade of healing my relationship with food, of, you know, losing sort of, you know, 70 pounds of weight, but reversing all my health conditions. And I now love exercise at 50 and in menopause. I am the happiest I've ever been with my body, not because I'm a size 10 and skinny, but because I've done the work and healed the relationship with food, with my body, with everything else. And it is complex. And you said there, you know, Vic, about like going to Weight Watchers at 18. The stories I hear from women that come to work with me, some are taken to Weight Watchers as young as 9. And I have women come to work with me now in their 50s and their 60s, and they've never had that freedom, and not just from dieting, but from food. Food has been a constant battle, a constant noise, everything else. So yeah, for me, really a 30-year battle with diets, disordered eating, emotional eating. Oh, just exhausting, if I'm honest. It was exhausting.
Yeah. See, I spent from the age of 6 to 18 in Cameroon, in West Africa, and there's no filter there when people talk to you. So they'll just see you and go, oh my God, you're so fat. Oh my God, you've put on weight. So it's like I've heard that from such an early age because and the thing is, when I look at myself, I'm like, I wasn't fat. So, but again, compared to the other children, I guess I was bigger. And, you know, I remember somebody saying to me, oh, don't worry about it. You'll fill out eventually. Like, you know, your body will sort everything out. It's just hormones and everything else. And it never did. But also, you know, and I know we're going to talk about weight loss injections here, but I think when people go and do weight loss, they forget what's caused them to put the weight on in the first place, because it's not the food. And what I found with clients who I work with on, you know, just trying for them to get to that level of freedom in their life, for them to fall in love with their life, it's like, it's never the thing that you think it is. It's never, it's not the food. It's not the croissant and stuff, you know. It's like, I remember I experienced a lot of verbal abuse growing up. And I don't really talk about this bit, but I experienced a lot of verbal abuse. And my way of escape was to be in my room. And I was very lucky that I had my own room. I had an ensuite. So I would buy takeaways from the street and have it in my room, because nobody else could speak to me or give me the verbal abuse. So I didn't have to put up with it. So I'd eat my food. So then guess what? You stop looking at like portion sizes and everything else, because you're feeding yourself, but you're also feeding the noise that's in your ears. And I've got so many stories around weight, but it's really funny how you've both talked about hating your body and not hating your body. And I feel I almost like numbed my connection to my body, where it was just like, it's a body. And again, from a spiritual perspective, now that I know what that is, I've always seen myself bigger than my body. So I guess the reason why I've been successful in life is because I've kind of rightly or wrongly ignored the body, because I'm like, I can't focus on how you look because I've got other things to do. I can't focus on what size you are because I've got other things to do. So I developed a really clever way of, first and foremost, knowing what I'm here to do, my purpose, and as a result, embodying that and finding a way to make myself still look amazing in a big body. And it's not the solution, but it was one solution.
And I feel like that's probably what stage I'm at as well. It's like when I've got no clothes on, I'm perfectly happy with my body. I'm not unhappy in any way with it, but it's the way that clothes look on me that I'm unhappy with. So I know that's because I've not replaced my wardrobe for a while. I've not got a style. I just wear baggy jumpers and leggings, or like and that's something that I need to focus on, like what you've done, Victoria. You walk into a room and you look amazing, you've got these bright coloured clothes on and everyone's drawn to you because you found your style. If you were wearing something that you felt really uncomfortable in because it was too tight, and then you're not going to feel good in yourself and in your body, are you?
No. So we've talked about a bit of Slim Fast. We've talked about Weight Watchers, and now we're being told that we have this incredible solution. And I say incredible because that's what it's been advertised as, where you can get injected and you can lose the weight and life can be so much more better. What are our thoughts, Naomi?
Oh God, it's such a big, complex subject. I think that's the first thing to say, because there is no black and white with it either. There is absolutely no doubt these injections have been life-changing and life-transforming for so many people. And look, I think it's really important to say as well that I have and continue to support women on weight loss injections. So I have, I guess it's why I kind of unconventional is that I work with women who don't want to be on GLP-1s, but also that are on them, but they are a piece of a puzzle. There is no magic fix. I mean, look, it doesn't matter whether it's weight, business, relationships, finances. There is no magic fix. There is no one solution. It is a piece of a jigsaw. But
Yeah.
if you do not have that, joint kind of approach of treatment plan that actually Rochelle's already said there, you've been on the weight loss injections twice, you've regained the weight. Now, because if you do not address the relationship of food, as you also said there, Vic, about how it's never about the weight, hence my book, it's the relationship with food, it's the identity around food, it's the identity you've created yourself, then it's not a long-term solution. Is it part of a treatment plan? Yes, it absolutely can be. It absolutely can be. Yeah. And I think that's what's really, really important. I have lots of concerns, but that's not just as a weight loss coach. That is also as a woman who has had a disordered relationship with food and is having women coming to me with worse disordered relationship with food than they've ever had before. So I think, it's a really, really complex subject. It's not just a yes or no or a whatever. But for a lot of people, they have been absolutely life transforming and life changing. But also I hear obviously a lot of other scenarios and situations where they've had a really, terrible effect, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally.
100%.
So what was interesting when I started taking it, like I think when you take it, it's amazing. You're just not hungry, and you're like, it feels so good to like just not feel hungry and just to be able to get on with your day without thinking, oh, I need a snack, oh, I need to make my lunch. So that was amazing, and I loved that side of it, and being able to just eat a small amount and then go, oh, I'm full now. This is fabulous. But it also made me feel very tired. I was exhausted from it because I wasn't feeding my body with energy, so I did feel sleepy and tired. Somebody else I knew who was taking it, they actually had the opposite effect because they were more significantly like they were bigger. So what they found was that when they lost the weight, they then had more energy than they'd ever had before because they were fitter in the body. But for me, it had the opposite effect. And then, like I say, I stopped taking it because I thought, well, actually, I'm quite at the size that I want to be now. But when I stopped taking it, I was starving, like way hungrier than what I'd been before I started taking it. Just absolutely starving. It was like it came back rapidly. And then I put the weight back on. So then I started and did exactly the same again. The reason I stopped taking it this time was because I'd had some scare stories and lots of people with like gallbladder problems, and I was starting to get a bit of pain. And I thought, you know what, I don't want this. I'm not big into. I don't take medication very often. Like I have to be really ill to take painkillers. I didn't have any sort of like vaccinations or any recently or anything like that, so I'm quite concerned about what I'm putting into my body, and I felt like it had been something that I'd probably not looked into enough. So I was like, right, I'm not doing this anymore. But at the same time, it feels tempting because it does feel like a really easy way to lose weight. One of my relatives who's taken it, she's been told to take it for 2 years, but consistently. So I'm like, well, I only took it for about 3 months at a time. I wasn't taking it long term. But people say you should, while you're taking it, you should still continue to eat a normal amount of food and normal meals. But you just can't. It makes you like, if you eat too much, it just makes you feel sick and ill. And even sometimes I'd have a cup of tea, and that was like a cup of tea would fill me up, and which was just crazy. So I can't imagine taking it for 2 years because she's already now at her goal weight. So it's going to be very difficult for her to maintain that goal weight and not to continue to lose that weight. And then what happens when she does stop taking it after 2 years? Will she be able to continue to keep the weight off, or is it going to then? And I've seen it happen with lots of people who've had gastric bands and things like that. Like, yeah, you've got a really tiny stomach and you can only really eat small amounts of food, but they manage to grow that stomach again and put on all the weight because of what you teach and talk about, Naomi. And like, it's the relationship with the food's not changed just because your stomach size is different.
Oh God, where do you want me to start? Can I just say that I am still waiting for that miracle that tells me not to be hungry when I'm hungry. Like, if I'm hungry, I'm hungry. I'm not hungry all the time, but if I'm hungry, I'm hungry. And there is no injection that will stop me from being hungry. Also, I'm going to say this. I'm very aware that we know a lot of people who've taken this injection. And there's that whole thing of, when I decided to do this, I was like, you're going to get some people's backs up. You're going to get some people who are going to go, you're not being supportive. I will say this. For me, the injections are a no. I'm not standing on the fence. I'm going, it's a no. And I'll tell you why. So, as I've said before, struggled with my weight, or weight's just been a thing that if you could lose more, then you could do better kind of thing. So weight has always been a thing. In my 40s, I'm now 52. So in my 40s, I got told that I could be pre-diabetic. And it's really funny because up until about 6 years ago, I trained almost every day, but I've just always been a big girl because I love food. That's it. It's like, I'll go to the gym. Even today at the gym, I was laughing. I was like, there used to be a time when I'd do this and then pop by and get a kebab and stuff. Like, it's just always been a thing. Not now, by the way. But my back decided to start hurting out of the blue one day. And that back pain exists until now. And that back pain, a lot of people won't know this. I mean, I'll tell you about my back pain, but the excruciating pain I've been in has meant that even as a healer, it's just not shifting. So it stopped me from going to the gym, which means that I've put on more and more weight because I've been less mobile. But luckily I'm back at the gym because they've found a solution for me, and I'm so grateful because I can't wait to just get moving again. Again, it's not just about weight loss, it's about sort of like the movement of your body and how you feel and everything else. But a few years ago, probably about 2 years ago, my doctor gave me a leaflet and he said, you're still not peri, I am that as well. I'm perimenopausal, but that's not what we're talking about today. I am
pre-diabetic.
Thank you. I am pre-diabetic. I know the brain fog's real, guys. And he said, read this. And then when we meet next time, we can talk about it. And he gave me this leaflet and I put it down and carried on working and doing my thing. Went to see him again. He goes, did you read your leaflet? I said, oh, no. Anyway, I started reading it and it was for this injection. And obviously there's different brands. I'll just say there's different brands. And I can't remember which one. Mine was Ozempic. It was like, so I went back to him and he goes, have you read it? I went, yeah. And he says, right. He goes, do you want it? I went, well, what's it helping? And he goes, oh, it can help you manage your weight and also bring your blood pressure down. At the time, my blood pressure for the very first time had spiked up. And he goes, and we can reverse the pre-diabetic diagnosis. I was like, not a problem. It's only when I started taking it that I really started doing some proper digging. So there was the thing about the Ozempic face, and it is so clear to see, which to me is not normal. It's like, why does everybody look the same? Why does everybody look exactly the same way? Why is your face drawing downwards and what have you? But there were people talking about their journey, making content around it. Then people started struggling to, with their bowels and everything else. Now, I'll say this. There wasn't one day that I didn't eat when I was hungry. So if I felt hungry, I'd eat. And I'd eat a normal portion. I was shedding pounds though, so I was losing weight. But I kept on reading more into it. And there was a lot of information that wasn't being told. So yes, you lose weight, but I am a strong believer that if you're losing somewhere else, then something is gaining somewhere else. And not one single doctor who I spoke to 2 or 3 different doctors, could not explain to me where that was going. I actually booked an appointment to go and see my doctor, and I said, I need you to tell me about this injection that you've given me, because Right now, I don't know what the side effects are. I'm hearing stuff in the news. I know that I'm shedding weight, but to me, my life isn't just about being a size 10. It's not. It's not that important to me. My personality doesn't depend on my weight. Who I am doesn't depend on my weight. And the doctor turned around and says, I can't give you that information because we don't know. And I said to him, and that's why I'm coming off them. Because it can't be just about how you look. It has to be about so much more. Now, him and I had a conversation and I did some more research. And again, you can only base stuff on research. So things were looking up and looking up and looking up. And I said to him, and I was putting more and more weight on. And I was like, what do you think? And he goes, well, try it. He goes, but the most you're going to lose is about 20% of your weight. He goes, that's the most you're going to lose. He goes, the most you can be on it is 2 years. So I was like, okay. So I started taking it again. And again, I was like, something wasn't sitting right. And then this is when I saw the legal case in America. And I think it's about 3 billion or something. It's like a massive case where people are getting really, really ill from it. But as I've been watching people that I know, in not just the online space, but also offline, I'm seeing people either being very secretive about it and taking it because there's that shame attached to it. Definitely. And I don't think there should be shame. I'm like, if you're doing it and to me, it's like, if you really believe in it, then fair free, talk about it and everything else. I'm seeing people who are self-sabotaging themselves in various ways, whether it's in their behavior, whether it's what they're doing on top of the weight loss. I remember seeing a girl years ago who had a gastric bypass, and I'm going to stop talking after this, but I met her in the pool. She used to be massive, probably the same size as me now. And she lost a lot of weight and she'd gone to like a size 14. And I saw her in the pool and I went, are you glad you had the gastric thing? And she went, if I knew then what I know now, she goes, I've never had it. Yeah. Because she has not stopped being ill. She has been so ill. I don't even know if she's alive anymore. Like she's been so ill, but she looked amazing in her bathing suit, but she was like, it wasn't worth it. So I guess I wanted to talk about this because I'm not here to put people off it. It's like, if you're on the injection, I wish you all the best. But I want people to know that if you're taking something away, something's got to give somewhere else. And you need to figure out where that give is. Where is that? And if your doctor can't answer it or your supplier can't answer it, then maybe it's time to just have a bit of a double check on what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I'd like to pick up on a couple of the points there that you've talked about. You said the word shame, and I want to pick up on that word because it's, everything in my program is science-backed, shame-free, compassion-led. Because what I find with 100% of the women that come to work with me is that they have a level of shame around their relationship with food, their relationship with body, or their relationship with themselves. There is shame that has shown up somewhere in their lives. It's exactly what happened for me. And I've had women come to me and say, listen, I'm on the hands up, I'm on the weight loss injections, but I really, really want your help as well. And first of all, I'm like, that's cool. And it makes no impact to me whether you're on them or not. Of course, it's important for me to know for the point of view of program and working together. But I also know that there are a lot of women that also say to me, like, I can't tell my family. I don't want anybody to know. And that, I guess the thing that opens up for me is that's another form of shame on top of the shame that you probably already had with your relationship with food, with your relationship with body, with your relationship with yourself. That shame doesn't just go anywhere. So I think it's a really, really important word to use. And of course, it's like anything. There are women that have, and we're talking obviously women, I guess I'm specifically talking about women because I work with women, but anybody who has that relationship with themselves and has shame as a part of it it will keep showing up until you heal the shame.
Amen.
So I think, you know, and I'm thinking about, you know, certain women that I've worked with over the years who have had gastric sleeves, gastric balloons, gastric bands, regained all the weight, you know, come for help. Some that have been on weight loss injections come for help because they've never, ever got to the root cause. And if you don't, then nothing will work long term, because it will, as you said there, Rochelle, obviously suppress your appetite, have that impact on hormones, regulate that. But as soon as that stops, if the rest of the, you know, shame, relationship with food, hunger, all those different things hasn't been addressed, then nothing changes. And you said there, Vic, about like doctors not knowing. I think one of my biggest concerns that I see is I'm in a lot of forums. I've been invited to be member in, you know, big forums, 150, 200,000 members, some more than that. And it's the amount of advice being given by Joe blogs.
Yeah.
About dosage, about discount code, about suppliers, about cheating with like putting a different number in so that you can actually get the medication. And there is such little, well, there is no regulation that, you know, it's now black market, it's now on eBay, you can kind of get it anywhere. And that's where my biggest concerns are, because I do know that if this injection had been available, it was, but it was only available 10 plus years ago for, you know, obesity and for diabetes. It was very much a medical and medically prescribed, whereas now, of course, it is far more, you know, far more lenient. I know that I would have been on that injection 10 plus years ago, but I also know from, you know, myself and the work I've done is that I know that relationship with myself and food wouldn't have changed. Right.
Yeah, completely. Rochelle, what do you have to say about that?
So I've just been sat here. I feel like you've given me lots of things to think about in terms of my own relationship with food, because I'm actually like, I don't think I've got a bad relationship with food. I like big portions. I snack sometimes. I definitely do often. I have a sugar addiction, and I know I can kick it, but I have to be strict to myself. I'm very much all or nothing when it comes to sugar. I'm also vegan, which since I've been vegan for coming up to 5 years. Before that, I was vegetarian, and I was vegetarian for 20 years. And making the shift to vegan, I did see that had a big impact on my weight, because previously I was eating lots of eggs and protein, and I never really ate things like bread, and that was all fine. I could do that and enjoy the food that I was eating. Whereas being vegan, I'm eating lots more bread, and I've not got that protein, so that there's loads more carbs coming into my diet. But I actually go as long as I'm healthy and happy and comfortable in my clothes, then I don't think I'm actually bothered about my weight. And like I said before, I love exercising, and I do feel like listening to like all my friends and family and other people that struggle so much with looking at themselves in the mirror and liking what they see, I feel like I'm in a really good position. And one thing I've been quite conscious with bringing up my children is that I want them to love their bodies, and to feel confident in their own skin. So I am very conscious of, like, I never talk about my body in a negative way in front of them. I'd never say, oh, I look fat in this or anything like that, because I don't want that to rub off on them. I think the difficulty, like literally everything in parenting, they can be quite they eat a lot. They're happy to sit there and eat probably a whole cake. They'd probably like bags of sweets, bags of like. So having that balance between going, I want you to love your body, and I want you to be healthy, but then making decisions for themselves on how much they eat. So from them being very little. I did baby-led weaning with them. I breastfed both of them. The baby-led weaning, it was like them just eating what they wanted, basically giving them like a carrot stick and them just chewing on it. And like my mum goes mad at me because I'll get like the portions that I give them, like they eat it, but they've always had quite small portions. They never go hungry. But she, like, my mum's one of those parents, like, we're from an Italian family. We've always had big, massive portion sizes. And she'd be like, they hardly eat any food. I'm like, they eat enough for what they need. And if they want more, they can have more. But I'm not just going to put a massive mountain on the plate for them to waste it. So there's all these things that I'm thinking about, like how partly intentional and partly accidental, because not everything I do in parenting is purposeful, like how I'm then impacting what my children's relationship with their body and with their food is going to be like. But I think so far I feel like I've done a good job. But Maisie's 11 now and going into a teenage years, and she had her first incident just as she was going up to secondary school, where some boys commented on how big a bum was. So that made her really, like, she loves a bum, like she's happy with her body, but like some other people, especially boys, looking at it and going, "Oh my god, your bum's so big," and I think they meant big. It's big in a good way. In a good way. I don't think they meant it in a negative way, but then obviously that's like then made it, oh my god, like why are they talking about my bum? Do I need to cover my bum up more? And it's all these things that start, all these thoughts that starts triggering in your mind as a teenager or a preteen.
Yeah, I think if nothing else, I think this conversation leads down to the fact that it's not just about the way, it's about so much more. And you know, to get yourself the support that you need, even if you're on the journey of weight loss, whatever choice you make, is to get some other advice. Because, you know, I remember I did Slimming World as well, by the way, and I tried to do Rosemary Conley as well. So I've ticked the boxes, but all these women are women who've lost weight, and then they've been given the opportunity to teach other women how to lose weight, which means they're not qualified. Yes, they've experienced, but they're not qualified. So they're only going to tell you based on what they have and stuff. It's like doing that research and getting somebody who's qualified, someone who's dedicated their life to actually solving these problems, it more than likely. And again, you'll go, yeah, but what about the doctors? But the doctors will only tell you what they're allowed to talk about and stuff. That, like, it's so regimented now in that way, which is very opposite to the regimentation around the drugs, because the drugs aren't regimented, but the doctors are. So doctors can't give you any advice. And I like to think that I get on really well with my doctor. He's a lovely guy. He's probably one of the best doctors I've ever met. He can't give me any information. He's like, I can't talk about it. Like, there's nothing to give you. So I'm like, but you're asking me to put my body in and stuff, you know. And I could go on about other injections that have been put in our way to have and stuff. And again, it's like, what are you putting in your body? And it's very interesting that you talk about that, Rochelle, because I'm like, putting in your body, but equally I'll put a bag of sugar in my mouth and stuff in the form of a cake or anything else, right? So I'm not pretending to be all savvy, but what I am saying is that where you can control it, you know, like with my addiction to sugar, I'm using pranic healing to help me through that. But again, it is emotional, because you're quieting some noise that you didn't realize that the noise existed. And that's one thing that I know about myself. I'm like, it is noise that you're quieting. But also from an African perspective, when we host a party in Cameroon, people pile their plates up. It's like there's nothing about portion control. So it's like to me, I've had to train myself to put one thing of chicken, and even the chicken that I saw it yesterday. I was like, some people put that into 2. Some people put it into 3. I'm like, but I want to eat that, you know. But I'm very aware that even though so I had a chicken and it was about the size of this, but I know some people would cut it into 2. I'm like, hell no, I'm having the whole lot. But then I had the vegetables, you know, I had it with vegetables and everything else. But my point is, it's like, it's also what you've been brought up with. Like, and also what's going on the outside. If you're like me and you're trying to escape the noise, then you find somewhere quiet. Guess what? You're putting the food in. You're not even thinking about hunger. You're thinking about the noise outside. So to the point where you're just numb, right? You're just numb around it.
I think what's interesting is actually it's irrelevant what weight you are, because you'll have people who are really, really slim and have the what you'd class as the idyllic body, and they're not happy, and people who are bigger and not happy, people who are big and are happy, and people who are small and are happy. And that's like what I've said about me, that I've always been comfortable in my body, and I think that's the thing that we need to work on, and not let the media noise and the social media noise and like social pressures make us feel differently about our body. We can eat as much food as we want, or as little food as we want, and if you being a size 10 makes you happy and you feel most comfortable in your body, then it's working towards that goal. But I think that's the thing, we need to work on our mindset over
completely agree. Yeah, completely agree with that. And I always say with my clients, like I don't care what size my clients are. There's no goal weight for any of them. There's no like weighing on scales every week, or unless, that's what they want to do. All I want for them is that they have a healthy relationship with food, that they have joy in eating. Like, it's so interesting how many people say to me, oh, but I love my food. I love my freaking food. I don't love my food any less than I did when I was 70 pounds heavier. I have just changed the relationship, the noise, the, relationship with sugar, with all those different things. It's important that we get joy from food, because, that is part of what eating is about. But also for me, like the biggest thing is that we're healthy and vibrant, and like that doesn't come with a number on scales or a clothing label. That comes from from within, is about how we feel about ourselves. And I think, like you said there, Rochelle, there's judgment regardless. I mean, women especially have just been, you look at the press, you look at the media, you're judged for this, you're judged for that, and we spoke about Victoria Beckham briefly a couple of weeks ago. There's a perfect example, isn't it, of,
I was just thinking of her.
She was too skinny, or she was overweight, or she'd let herself go, or whatever it was. And there's always going to be judgment. I think what's just important with all of this is that regardless of if weight loss is your goal, if that's something that you want to achieve, whether it's for health, and listen, if it is for vanity, that's also okay. That's why I started my weight loss journey, if I'm honest, at 13, when I say started, like in my teens, it was because I wanted to look better and feel better about myself. At 39, when I was, had all sorts of health conditions, was it my health that really made me lose the weight, if I'm honest? No, it was initially vanity. I wanted to be slim, skinny, whatever you want to call it. However, at 50 now, having reversed all my health conditions and feeling better at 50 than I did at 30, it's no longer about a size for me, or about weight, or about skinny, or about anything. It's about being healthy, having vitality, and also thinking about like the next, because potentially I've got another 50 years ahead of me. I want to continue to be able to bend down, do my shoelaces up, run for the bus, run home when it starts raining, all those different things. And I think that's what's really important here is we're talking about weight loss. We're talking about weight loss injections, but actually what it all comes back to is how we feel in here ourselves, here, in our bodies, what is going on for us.
I love that. Well, I don't think I've got anything else to say other than that. When I was smaller, instead of worrying about weight, I just went shopping. So I turned my food. I turned my food. We'll call it food addiction. I never thought I was addicted to food, but I turned my need to eat into shopping because everything would fit. So it's like, again, that energy needs to be sorted out. It's the energy that needs to be looked at rather than the what. And I love what you've said, Naomi. Is that it's not about the food. It's not about the weight, and we can actually link that to everything. You know, it's like if you're chasing the money, if you're chasing the relationship, it's not about that. It's so much more deeper, because when you have it, then what? How do you maintain that? How do you embody that? How do you not go back to where you are? How do you not go from somebody who's big and thinks, oh my God, I need to lose weight because losing weight is the answer, to losing weight and still sabotaging your life? Because again, I'm seeing a lot of that happening as well. Ladies, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good conversation.
Always lovely to chat, and lovely to have different sides of, you know, personal experiences as well as professional ways.
Yeah, and just being able to, I find like I'm using this a lot to just be more open about myself as well, you know, and also share that, because sometimes when you're in a business, unless it's something that you're selling or promoting or helping people with, people don't always get to see that other side of you and stuff. And it's nice to say that, listen, you know, I may walk into a room confident and stuff, but I've had to do a lot of work on myself, and it doesn't mean that I've solved every other problem or every other thing that's going on in my life. Like, you know, there's other things happening that aren't as smooth. You know, it's like I may walk in and have a smooth presence, but sometimes not everything in life is smooth. So, and I think that goes for all of us as well, that we're not the perfect or the end goal. As Naomi says, we've got 50 more years plus.
Maybe even more than 50, who knows?
If we play our cards right.
There might be an injection to make us stay alive for much longer and stuff. That'll be the next one that we talk about. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.